is 70% glycolic acid. Today I'm going to talk about 3 skincare mistakes I made so that you don't have to make them too. First mistake was being careless with in-office strength peels. So this is 70% glycolic acid. This is what you would use if you went to a clinic for a face peel. What you usually buy for use at home is like 20%, maybe max 30%. If you use 70%, you really need to follow the directions very carefully. And when I was using it, I was being a little bit willy-nilly about it, because even though I followed the directions pretty carefully, like the first couple times I did it, in subsequent times I was like less careful. And one of the things they tell you is that if there's any kind of discomfort, you need to immediately use the neutralizing agent and rinse it off. And one time I waited a little bit too long and I wound up with like little etched lines in my forehead from leaving this on too long. I do believe they eventually went away, but it did kind of scare me straight. And so now, to be honest, I don't really like using these very high strength peels at home, just because it's just like kind of a headache. My second mistake being too reliant on single layers of sun protection. So a lot of people, including Lab Muffin, if you follow her, talk about sun protection in terms of layers of Swiss cheese. So every layer of sun protection is going to have some imperfection, right? If you put on sunscreen, there's going to be parts where you forgot to apply. If you wear sun protective clothing, like there's still like areas of your body that it doesn't cover. So you want to have like several things going at once. My mistake was, for years, when living in Korea, I often carried a parasol, which is a very common thing to do over there. And like, it's really good addition to your sun protection, and you can buy parasols that are UPF rated. But my mistake, as I said, was I would rely so much on that. Now, I always wore sunscreen on my face, so my face came out like fine, but like the backs of my hands, I noticed not so much. They have much more aging compared to my face, because there were years there where I thought I was like basically protecting them with the parasol, and I wasn't, because the parasol can't, even if you're in the shade, you're still getting UV exposure there. So you really need sunscreen or gloves on your hands as that extra layer of protection. My third mistake was avoiding for years my eye area when I applied skincare, including specifically sunscreen and retinoids. Now, there's some skincare where it's not necessary to use it around your eyes. For example, if you're using acne medication, well, the area immediately around your eyes doesn't tend to be so oily that pimples pop up there. So you don't, like if you're using an antibiotic, you don't really need to spread it there. However, you do need some protection around your eyes, and also your eye area can benefit a whole lot from retinoids, because that's where you start to see fine lines the earliest, because the skin is so thin. But for years, I thought the eye area is too sensitive to be using either of those things. Now I've realized that retinoids, for me, do just fine in that area. Of course, if you've never done it before, you should proceed like carefully to make sure you're not too sensitive, just like really any area of your face with retinoids. But they are very usable there, and I use 0.1% tazarotene around my eyes, eyelids, and right under, all the way around. And then for sunscreen, I really like lip balms and stick sunscreens for the area around my eyes, because those are very viscous and the least likely to get pushed into my eyeballs. So I hope you've been able to learn a little bit from my mistakes. See you in the next one.